I'm spending today in a room of 4,000 shotguns and rifles. You guys know where I am. I'm at the Holts April 2024 sealed bid. And we are going to open up with this today. This, lot 6193, is a Luigi Franchi Barrage, made in Brescia, Italy. And it jumped off the shelf over anything else. Well, it didn't really. I went and just pulled it off the shelf and suddenly realized that it's one of those guns that just got straight under my skin. Two reasons. Firstly, and the reason I picked it up, was the palm swell. There was no other reason to pick it up. I thought, hey, I don't think I've ever seen a Franchi with a nice looking palm swell. And secondly, when I pulled it off, it has a step-up rib and a barrel hanger system on the front. This is a cool gun. Obviously, in the modern world, we associate that step-up rib, the barrel hanger, floating barrel concept with Krieghoff, but back in the late 70s and early 80s, this was the thing for trap guns. But there's no reason, as we've discussed and shown on the channel before, that you can't be using these kind of things in a sporting gun in the modern world. Most modern sporting targets aren't shot in that instinctive way that they were back when this gun was built in 1979. And so I picked this up and I swung it around, put it in my hands, and automatically said, I need this. And I think it's a fair thing to say that I need it. It's £200 to £300. I'm not gonna buy it because I'm not a lunatic and I don't need another step-up rib trap gun that I never use, even on sporting clays. But it is an interesting gun, so we're gonna have a look at it back to front. At the back, we have the Franchi patent recoil pad with the red spacer. Love the red spacer, a little bit spicy for 1979. The stock is a fairly uninteresting lacquered finished piece of walnut, but it has got some fiddleback. It's not an ugly piece of wood by any standards. The total length of pull being 14.5 inches, and very interestingly, having a really nice palm swell. Not too big, just fits that hand lovely. It has a fixed trigger blade, which, you know, is pretty standard for 1979. And a nice high wide comb, being a trap gun, but very much more like a modern sporting gun than a modern trap gun. You have a safety catch, and being a trap gun, it has the opportunity to take this screw out and actually lock the safety off, so that in a pinch, you do not accidentally knock it on, being that that would count as a loss. That's currently turned off, so you can make this gun safe. Spin it over. The action is a fairly plain Franchi action, something that we're very familiar with the design of, with gold inlaid barrage down the side. It's a nice looking piece of wood and a nicely put together gun for £200 to £300. You have a beaver tail forend, pretty familiar beaver tail spec, not too big, just, you know, like a Mark 38 for example, or a little smaller than a Browning one. And here you have tram lines leading up into that top rib, that mid-height top rib with the red line down the middle. I'd love to shoot this gun. I love to shoot this gun with that red tram line. I reckon that would be mustard. Pull that bead out the end and you just have a big lightsaber of pointery. Pulling the fore end off, we're going to have a little look at the barrels. You have a interesting ejector system, a little bit like a Browning ejector system, an original early Browning with that split ejector piece there. You have solid midrib, little spacing part in the middle there, and a front end barrel hanger that is more like a clip than a hanger, doesn't go all the way around. These barrels are 30 inches long with 1/4 and 3/4 chokes. This is a good, usable gun. All in all, weighing in at £8.1. Oh yeah, Luigi Franchi, Brescia, made in Italy. The gun balances about 1/8 of an inch in front of the hinge, and it balances well. It's not that fussy. Nice bit of midweight there. And when you mount the gun up, I'm seeing a little bit of rib, as much as I'd want to. Really, I don't think I'd want much more, though you could handle a little more for me. But what's real interesting is I can actually look right down it because it's built with a decent amount of cast in it. It's actually got some cast built on about, well, just over 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch at the heel. Not bad. Not bad. Like, I really want this. If somebody would like to buy it for me for my birthday, I'd really appreciate it. I think I don't need another trap gun that I don't use, but for £200 to £300, I'm tempted to throw a cheeky bid on this, you know. What a cool gun. I like that. Maybe we should start a trap gun museum and then I can legitimately just buy every one I see. Awesome. Tim Warner, straight out of Copenhagen.
Oh yeah.
Half of the guns in here are yours, as far as I'm aware. I saw you post a thing where Holts came and collected, what, 700-800 guns?
850, and I think we sent over in that consignment just a little over 1,000 guns.
Just a collection. Somebody's lifetime supply of...
Correct.
Very average guns.
Oddities, I would say. But
Oddities, yeah. We've shown me a few that you can find on the website. There's that pape.
That looks nice.
Yeah.
There, little underlever.
But we're going to look at this instead because this is weird and wonderful.
This is very weird. It's lot 6141. J. Anders Anderson from Flensburg, over and under
Where's
Hammergun. Flensburg? Well, North Germany.
North Germany.
Yeah, just on the border to Denmark.
Used there like some ancient dispute.
Yeah, we weren't quite on level where the border was, and
when it was drawn, they thought we'll keep Flensburg.
Yeah, they kind of kept it.
That's fair enough.
Yeah,
That's
all
fair
right.
enough.
Well, enough on that.
Let's move on from that.
Yeah.
An over and under hammer gun is pretty sick. It's weird that it is a Damascus top 16 bore barrel and a fluid press steel bottom barrel 32 smoothbore.
Yeah, that tells us that this is made as a rifle, as a rook, a cape gun. You would call it a cape gun at some point. Hence why this.
Yeah, some kind of 9mm big death.
I would say so.
Combat.
Yeah, probably. So, top lever, obviously non-ejector, hammer gun, and so bottom caliber being obsolete in this country
means that it still has to go on a shotgun certificate.
Yeah, it has to, because the 16 bore has to go on your license.
You can find 32 smooth bore cartridges, same as 24. They're both a bit weird, but you can find them if you work hard.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's 150 to 250 pounds, isn't it? It's a right oddity.
It is. And let me tell you, there was a few of those in there, and there's a good few guns in this sale from that collection as well.
Absolutely.
The pape being one of them you just mentioned.
I'm going to go grab it.
Yeah.
Hold on. I mean, over and under hammer guns are pretty rare. It's an 1885 built thing.
It is.
It's super rare.
Yeah.
But this is actually rare and practical. This is a beautiful thing. It's a pape.
Underside lever, I would say, yeah.
A push to the side lever to open it. I mean, just the lines of this is stunning. Crack stock.
Beautiful. Yeah.
But you'll live with that.
Yeah.
How bizarre is that? Very un-British.
Yeah, it is. Well, probably being made to German or Danish client that is very European at that point of time, isn't it?
So this turns you on?
A bit.
No, it's like in your blood.
This bit does, this bit doesn't.
Okay.
I mean, this is obviously Belgian-made gun, but as many guns from that time being bought in Belgium or whatever, and then finished in Denmark or Germany or whatever.
No, we bought plenty from there, but we had Birmingham, so we had our own mass
You had your own Belgium. Yeah.
Our own little Brummy Belgium.
Exactly. Yeah, we didn't really have that.
No. Belgium, the Birmingham of Europe.
Most of our guns are actually Belgian-made, or
interesting.
British-made as well.
So you bought some Brummy guns as well?
Sure. Yeah.
What's Denmark like as a gun-making country?
We have a few names of gun makers, Schultz and Larsen being one of them.
Very fine rifle maker.
Yeah, absolutely. Delcommune being another, who's a proof master at the Castle of Kronborg, which is just down the street to Sweden. Yeah, he made some guns as well. There might be one in here or the next sale. Very beautiful hammer gun, saying Delcommune on the rib.
Spell it.
Delcomyn.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This pape is 300 to 500. There's got to be a catch, right? It's got to have thin barrels or something.
It's a little bit thin, that one.
No, just some pits. It's not thin enough for them to note it, which is pretty good. And crack stock, of course, but it's totally fixable.
Right. I mean, if you hold that.
Yes, sir.
Let's see how.
Well, isn't that nice? This is a fine thing.
It's actually quite tight on the action. A little bit of movement there, but not much.
I like it.
Isn't that fine? Lot 7161.
You're such a pro.
Thank you. So are you.
I like that. I really like that. This is really quite...
Imagine the hours put into that.
Many. Newcastle on Tyne, winner of the London gun trials in 1858, 1859, 1866 and 1875.
That has been an expensive gun at one point.
Not anymore, luckily. That's the interesting thing about the sealed bid, right? You can buy world-class guns for pennies.
Yeah, you can. I mean, this is where you make... This is where you find the gems, isn't it? If you spend the time looking for them, they are in here.
And if you're willing to take some concessions.
Oh, yeah.
Perfection's next door. This is...
Absolutely. That one being one of them. Yeah, crack that hand.
Oh, come on.
But it's nothing, isn't it?
Nowadays, with our superior bonding compounds.
Or stock makers.
Any in Denmark?
Yeah.
Which one's best?
Well, I hate to mention myself, but we have made stocks for quite a few years.
I was just teeing you up, mate.
Yeah.
Both of these jumped out to me as relatively interesting. We've got lot 8509 we'll go into in a sec, and we'll have a look at this, lot 7103, a bar-in wood gun. A bar-in wood gun is an interesting thing. So if we pop that forend off, we can actually see how the bar of the action mates in with the wood. Instead of a gun like this, where you have a solid metal bar action, you have a bar in wood, meaning there is wood encasing the outside of the metalwork of the bar of the action. It's a real interesting thing. You end up with an island style trigger plate here. It's just a good, exciting, hard to make gun. Perhaps less hardy than a standard action. I know some people go mad for these. I really appreciate the workmanship, but this one, like many, because of the fragility, you have little chips of wood taken off the front. It's a tiny crack leading from the front of the trigger guard there into there, but you can't help but admire how beautiful the workmanship is. What's interesting about this one, firstly, is that stock is relatively up and together. Presumably it's a replacement. But secondly, is the price. This gun is a Joseph Lang of London, built in 1868, but these barrels were sleeved at some point since then. Sleeved and nitro-proofed, meaning that this gun from 1868 that was once a Damascus barrel black powder gun can be used with modern loads. Obviously, sympathetic modern loads. If you start putting 32 grams through this, then you're going to start having some issues. They're 2.5-inch chambers, and a sleeved gun basically means, and if you look very carefully, it's a really nice job to be fair. You can see the cut mark. The barrels are cut, the monoblock then, the chambers bored back out, 2 new tubes joined in to create you a new strong set of pipes. That devalues the gun. Obviously it's no longer original, meaning that this gun, a Lang bar-in wood, a nice Lang bar-in wood, is 250 to 350 pounds. I know some people really don't like it, and if any of you are watching, I'd love to know why. I mean, this one has a litany of sins. That trigger guard has been refinished quite badly at some point and cold blued, presumably joined together. It's an interesting thing that that has been rubbed down so much. Maybe it got overly rusty, maybe it broke, who really knows. She's 160 years old, basically. That's a beautiful piece of history. You have an interesting thing here. You have a kink top lever. That's kind of interesting. Presumably, so that when this hammers back, you can still open the gun. That's really quite clever. I think that's cool. What's interesting about this one, this is lot 8509. 2 things I want to discuss with this. The first is that it's got really nice sellers plates. We saw these on that Parker gun that I bought that I still haven't sent to America yet. Clearly just a little bit too fond of it. What happens when the stock breaks is, instead of making a new stock, or instead of doing a weaker repair, you put 2 metal plates in, let them onto the side, but I've never seen one done to this standard. These things are beautifully done. Hand engraved screws with large acanthus scroll. Big, bold and heavy to give you the grip that you're missing. And then if you look around, you have checkered panels that blend in with the top lever strap, or the top strap, the sellers plates and the ball. This is exceptional workmanship. I love it. How can you not love that? That's a really quality work. Yeah. What's a shame about this one? This is a C.W. Andrews Limited London, chambered for 2 3/4-inch case, charged 3.5 grams, 1.25 ounce of SG shot. Is that this gun is sold at Holts as a action and forend. These barrels are unsafe to shoot. And so when you buy a stock action and forend, you either take the stock action and forend, or they'll chop the barrels for you at a surcharge. You have to be an RFD to do this, I believe, or you have the licensable parts written onto your shotgun certificate. They'll chop a big notch in the bottom here in line with proof house guidance. What that means is that this gun will have to go off and either be rebarreled or re-sleeved before you shot it. Not the end of the world. I mean, this action is in really nice order. It's a beautiful action on this Andrews. It's nice. Not worth doing though, I guess. It's kind of sad. It's always sad when you see stock action and forends, but to see the level of work someone put into saving this gun once, it would be lovely to see someone do it once again. But that would be a proper passion project. The action is nice enough. But you look at this forend, you've got a lever forend, but look how that finial on the forend meets up with the forend iron. I mean, it's good. it's out of proof with thin barrels. If you want to be mad, if you want to save it, please do. It would be awesome if it was all like brought back from the brink. That raised scallop rib, it's just, this would be a great shooting gun with some cool history. I love it. I mean, I say I love it to literally every gun I pick up because I pick my favorites and show them to you guys. But yeah, I love it. Lot 6540 is one that I found on the internet before I came here. I do spend too long on the Holts website. It's an Atkinson of Lancaster and Kendall, just like the mint cake. It's a 20-bore underlever, rotary underlever hammer gun. Non-ejector with rebounding locks. The thing is quite nice. Brown Damascus barrels, latch forend, little loose. Barrels in the action are actually pretty tight. The thing is a nice gun. 14¼ inch stock, 27.5 inch barrels, and it's £300 estimate. You know, it's a pretty generic action. It's nothing super special, but I've always wanted a small bore hammer gun for, I don't know, for fun, for personal enjoyment, because I want to go and play. I don't know if this is the one. I don't know if it's quite special enough, given that it's a gun that I just want to own to look at and enjoy, with occasional popping. This gun is nice enough that it deserves to be shot. I like that a lot. Somebody could really have a bargain with this. The stock is tiny. I mean, it's a small gun, but I like that a lot. We haven't looked at one of these for a very long time. In fact, I don't think I've ever even reviewed one of these on the channel. Maybe I have back in the early days. This is a Maruku 3000 lot 6296. This one was born in 1984, which is, well, during the short period of time that Maruku decided they were going to try something different. Over time, obviously, Browning and Maruku started making guns together. And as of 1979, Browning over and unders, or at least the entry-level ones, were made in the Maruku factory in Japan instead of in Liège, although Liège continued to build guns and build hybrid guns from then until now. Over the course of that time, Browning has experimented with different action designs, the Synergy and the 725 being the case and point. Maruku haven't really, with the exception of the 3000, which is an interesting gun. The Maruku 3000, as you can see, has a slightly different profile to all other Maruku over and unders, and that is because of this sliding top latch locking. We all know that a standard Browning Maruku locks on a bottom thing, and that provides a deeper action which has some benefits. But in a market that is increasingly demanding shallower actions, all gun companies are trying to make stuff that lasts longer, that is more appealing, sleeker and sexier to us all. This is what Maruku brought to the table, although I've often thought that it was more used as a prototype for Browning. It wasn't a great success, interestingly, although I have spoken to a few people who were alive back then and they don't even remember much about it being marketed, so how much they pushed it in England, we will never know. The sliding top latch, obviously, again, is more of a Krieghoff Valmet Remington thing. There's a Remington 3200 in the other sale for £400 to £600 that is, it's pretty doggy, but it would be an interesting gun to buy and own. But Maruku tried it. It's a very strong action design. I've never seen one of these that is wobbly. Because of the way that it progressively locks up over the top there, these things stay tight for ever. And more importantly, you can never really see when they're off face because the entire surface is entirely sealed. So it's not like another gun that has the ability to wobble around. This is locked in. It's good. It's strong. I don't dislike it. I've shot 3000s and often thought I'd love one in a 32-inch model. However, I've only ever seen 28-inch gun. Imagine I've always thought one of these in 32-inch, restock it in a sort of aggressive Malmo Ricardo with a big pistol grip and go out and shoot clays with it just to confuse people who think that you've got something with a K in front of it. Somewhat interesting. New ejection system. We'll get one of these and do a full look over sometime, but I love the fact that they tried something new. You've got the super slim loop on the front there, which is done on a slightly re-engineered design. You've got tripping ejectors as opposed to kickers in the fore end. It's just so wildly different. I mean, a lot of the looks and features on here you can see on other guns of similar designs, and I'm sure they borrowed these patents off of somebody. It's very Valmetesque. It's just made to a Maruku standard, so it's not horrible. What's real interesting, and this is another thing that's worth mentioning, and I kind of get excited by all the details on here, is There is no end to the fore end either. The fore end wood is what butts up with the action. So when you lock that in like that, you have just the wood against the fore end. It's kind of weird, kind of bizarre. I don't entirely know what they were thinking when they made this. As you can see, it has its limitations. These bits have been cracked off and glued back on. I'd have loved to have seen a 3000 Mark II. Learn from their mistakes and go out and dominate this kind of new action design. But hey, they've kind of done that with the 725 and such. Just a piece of history. A cool piece of history. Simon, I've had about an hour in here. You've just turned up.
I have, because I've been busy all morning doing phone bids for clients on day one. So, yep, but my phone bidding sheet is now at an end, so I can come and have a look with you.
Yes, I mean, I went through and I just took, you know, like you look for the things that just have things that stand out.
Yeah.
I took some.
Yeah.
But I always miss out, so I thought I'm going to bring the ultimate gun hound in here.
Well, I haven't had a really good look around here because I've been too busy doing other things.
Yeah, and there's 4,000 guns, so yeah, it takes time.
It does take time, but we are carrying on till the 11th of April this time. So it will finish 10:30 in the morning. That's when we need your bids by on the 11th of April. It's a little bit longer for that reason, to give people a chance to get through such a big catalogue.
Realistically, you guys get, I see how mental it gets around main sale day and how quickly it goes, ramps up for sealed bid,
yes.
and the quantity of guns you have here and
Yes.
there for condition reports. I don't think there's anything wrong with putting a break between the two sales.
Well, no,
I like it.
we did nearly, I think, 1,600 condition reports on the main sale. So, and that finishes tomorrow afternoon. So then we get into the condition reports.
And you
for the
can
sealed
still request a condition report on something like
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, yeah. Josh and I will move down here after we finish Tuesday, and we will do condition reports until the 11th of April. So if you want to find out what it's like, just ask the question. Drop us an email to condition.
Full top to bottom
Yeah.
breakdown.
We'll tell you all the warts and all from a visual inspection.
Is there a price cut off for that?
No,
Wow.
there's no charge for it. There's no price cut off. If you want to know what something's like, ask the question. Condition@holtsauctioneers.com.
Okay.
Let's go and have a look at some guns.
I feel like I'm going to create some fake accounts. This £5 Webley and Scott.
The first one I want to pick out is 6500A.
6500A.
6500A, which I really like. It's a Rigby converted board out to 410 side lever with a two-stage hammer. A little bit of colour hardening left on the action. It's a gorgeous little
That
thing.
tang, it's a nice gun.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Have a
Lovely
guess
piece
on
of wood.
price.
Not going to play that game. You tell me what's in the catalogue.
150 to 250.
150 to 250. That's a bargain. Look at that.
I said to you before you picked it up.
Yeah.
Saying it's, I reckon 300 to 400 easy.
It's
a nice gun.
lovely. It's got a little bit of rust on the back of the hammer, but we'll forgive it that because there's a little bit of colour left.
You could just give it a clean when you buy
Give it a clean, exactly. So
Have a lot of fun with a really great gun by a great maker without
Yes.
paying the sort of prices you'd pay for a
yeah,
double.
exactly. We got two pairs of Rigby Rising Bite shotguns in the main auction coming up tomorrow.
It's slightly different value.
Different, yes, it's different level, but you can get into the Rigby Ownership Club for not
cool.
very much,
Yeah.
and it's a nice thing.
I mean, I've said you can show like 3 guns in this room and you've picked a second 410.
I have, yeah, because this is interesting. It's different. How often do you see a falling block 410? That's just
Rarely, unless it's converted rifle, right?
yeah. It's an odd patent, 6507. It's
70 to 90 pounds.
there you go.
That's a lot of cool tech for
That is,
70 to 90 pounds.
yeah.
I think maybe my next gun collection starting should just be on weird and obscure 410s. You get a lot of fun for not a lot of money.
You can, yeah, you can. And this is just a different gun.
It's really nicely put together, isn't it?
It is. It's got a few issues. It's probably been re-blacked at some point because you can see the marks under the blacking. So somebody has tried to fettle it a little
I
bit.
mean, it's hardly going to be collector's piece.
No, but
70 to 90 pounds, but it is.
But that
Look
bit
how
is
cool
that
that
bit
is.
is what you're buying for the 90 quid,
Look
isn't
how
it?
cool it is. I think, so we've got this one as well, lot 8504.
That is an extraordinary beast.
I know how it works and it doesn't work, and yet I still want to buy it to find out how it works. I don't even know what it is, but it's cool.
No, that's part of the allure of the sealed bid, isn't it? You find the weird, the wonderful, the unusual, the different.
Yeah, 1186. I have absolutely no idea what it is, and I can't operate it.
Yeah.
Apparently it's broken.
Oh,
That's
oh
why I
well,
can't operate
there you
it. That's kind of annoying. But I'd love to
project
buy it just
for
to
you.
find.
Exactly.
I don't
A
no
project.
need, same as you. I don't need
Don't
any
need
more
another one.
projects. Life's fun enough.
It is.
But this, you can have a lot of fun with. Just learning how guns are made, learning something cool and new in the technical department.
Yeah. So this has had quite a lot done to it. It is a live pigeon spec side lock ejector with teak chokes, extended teak chokes, wide far cut rib, mid rib bead.
Ported.
Sorry, I missed it. I didn't give it its full glory. Extended ported teak chokes. But if you wanted to break a clay pigeon with a side by side, that would be a tool for the job. It's not perfect by any means. There's quite a lot going on here. You've got a bit of a jigsaw puzzle of the stock, but you're not going to see it from 10 yards away.
But they've done a great job.
But it has been done well
professionally, which counts for a lot.
Absolutely. Probably to raise the comb and alter the stock dimensions to suit. But it really does suit now. I mean, I would love to shoot that. That is a cracking looking gun.
Belgium?
Yes. I can't remember who the maker is.
701.
Gant?
De Brouwer, Agand.
Oh, Agand, yeah. Live pigeon spec, side clips.
Oh, it's very nice, isn't
Very pointable. But there's touches of quality there. Those side clips, the front articulated trigger,
it? Oh, it's nice.
the engraving
The engraving is
good quality.
good.
Yeah.
The workmanship to the stock rehash is cool. Plus,
And you've also
it's got
got...
the SAS logo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've got Who Dares Wins in a winged dagger in the escutcheon.
Basically a blade if you buy this.
You've got to be in.
Yeah, 100%.
Gets you in the club.
Sleeved?
Yes, sleeves.
Yeah,
But I mean,
it feels good.
That is why I shoot a hammer gun with sleeve barrels for clay shooting, have done the last couple of years. I've actually moved on to a different gun this year, but that has seen me, I've done quite well with that. So a little bit of weight in the barrels is not a bad thing for clay shooting.
Nice.
Or high pheasants.
I like that a lot. 8 to 1200?
Yeah, something like that.
I've got two things to show you in the other room. I was going to do alone. Let's do it. Simon, I put these guns aside for myself to show to the camera. I actually would appreciate your opinion on them. They're all a little bit weird, a little bit wacky.
They are.
None of them are particularly... Well, that's a lie. This one's really quite fine, as is this one. This one's not. We'll start with this one.
Yep, you pull this one out.
You can be as brutal as you like.
Good,
But I
'cause-
spotted an AYA single trigger with a raised filed rib, and I thought, with a pistol grip,
Yep.
and I thought, we always go, that would make a good clay shooting side by side. This is 150 to 250 pounds, lot 6.9.
It's not bad. A lot of clients ask, what single triggers have we got? Because they can't get used to double. Some people, if you've grown up with a single trigger, it's very, very difficult to then swap over for some people. If you grow up...
shoot one, I presume the same as me. You just shoot it, and I don't even know that it's a double trigger. I'll have a look and it registers very quickly. Just go bang, bang.
I've started with double triggers,
slips,
gone to a single trigger, gone to a double trigger, and I'm changing guns all week.
I think this is it. It just clicks very quickly.
So you'll get mental dexterity.
I think very quickly when you pull the first one, you go, no, there you go.
Exactly. So yeah, you can get it in your brain if you start early enough. But a lot of people who come to it a little bit late find it difficult to swap over. You're more of a fan than this than I am, but it's got little touches to it.
The writing on the top rib kind of excited me. It's a special model for the Marquis de Tordequebrada.
Yeah, so clearly...
Kind of different.
And you gave me the translation of that, which is Broken Tower. So clearly...
The Marquis de Broken Tower. He should fix it instead of buying more shitty guns.
He could fix the rib as well, because that's had a hefty belt.
Be nice. It's
Be nice.
£150.
I'm in condition report mode. My job is to then find the issues. But
there's plenty.
Yeah, there are one or two issues to pick out here. But at the end of the day, you're right. It's a single trigger, live pigeon style, shorter barrel, raised filed rib with a mid-rib bead.
27.25-inch barrels is the only downside. If that had 30-inch barrels, I'd be all over that like a rash. Yeah. But it doesn't.
It doesn't, and it's also got a fairly hefty dent up there as well.
You really are in condition report mode.
I am in condition report mode.
You've lost all optimism in life. It's just, how bad can I dispel this gun to be? It's a nice gun.
It's all right,
Let's move on.
It's all right.
Stop being mean.
It's all right. This one I much
nice.
prefer. This one I much prefer. This one I like.
A Yugata Buru, which is really quite a rare maker to find in the UK.
Yeah, we've seen about 5 or 6 of these, not very many.
Yeah, but it's when we went over to Spain and had a proper look around over there, it's like ranked as a big name.
Yeah.
And it's put in like as an important thing when they were talking about D-arm and how that was put together. It's put like one of the top of the list for the people that went in there and didn't come out.
Yeah, I can believe it. It's got my personal favourite thing, which is a carved fence, and I occasionally put Instagram posts out which are called carved fence of the day, and this is what I focus on. Some people call them the detonators, some people call them the balls of the action, or technically that is the fence, but any work like this just shows off this part. This is nicely sculptural.
Deep carved acanthus.
And it's done well.
With a little daisy.
Yeah, it's done well.
The way the beading then goes into this rear sight, if you like.
Yeah, this is short top rib, which then sinks down and tapers off with that lovely nose to it, and then into file cut. This mid-rib bead, actually the vendor who I spoke to said you can get rid of that, it's just glued on. He glued it on himself. And
just couldn't get used to the...
Couldn't get it really, so...
The sunken rib.
But then it's picked up with a little accent that just widens at the muzzle, which is great. It's really nicely made, really nicely put together. If you take the lock plate off, some really nice, filed working parts inside the lock plate.
The engraving is very stylized, very Spanish, but I really don't dislike it. It is what it is. You can't be comparing it, but it's nice. And I say, just even like the fineness.
Yeah.
If you look at the engraving.
Very fine.
Onto that, or the actual
hand detachable lever,
really
or
nice.
nail, as Holland
Nail,
who came up with the patent called it. But also, if you go to the underside, you've got this little scroll touch here on the knuckle of the forend.
Yeah, it's nice, right?
That takes effort to do that. That's nicely inlet. That's nicely inlet.
The checkering is fine and good.
Yeah.
It was once before it was. This is what, 1958?
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate that I'm young, and some of you are old. But 1958 was when my dad was born, more or less. That's a long old time ago.
Yeah, and it's got little touches of quality on it. Nice articulated front trigger. It's always a good sign.
I appreciate that we occasionally use the word Spanish for meaning something less than best.
Yeah.
This is a best Spanish gun. That is nice.
It's lovely.
There's no riveting. Everything is struck up and filed really well.
Yeah.
You can't hate that.
Very, very nice, positive movement to the safety catch. Beautifully inlaid, seguro.
That is some
That's
quality.
cool. It's a lovely thing for not very much money. What are you talking about? Come on.
£250.
Yeah. Why not? You can't really say no. Yeah. That's a good-looking gun for 250 quid.
You're going to have to accept that this isn't your everyday gun. It's got short barrels with a sunken rib.
Yeah.
This is not a fashionable spec.
No. No. And it would take a while to get used to shooting it if you're used to 30-inch over and under. But it's worth having in the cabinet just for high days and holidays.
You know what? You're going to take that out. It's not your Browning 525 where people are going to ignore it. You go, I'm going to take this out for a drive.
Yeah.
Cool. And
Finally, one that you picked out, which I haven't seen, and then we kind of went over it and went, oh, wow, these are nice touches.
Oh, yeah.
So the first thing that caught my eye, so it's probably best to say what it is. This is a Beretta box lock.
1959, 1958?
The 50s.
Yeah. Same year as
Box
that,
lock,
more or less.
Yeah, box lock non-ejector, but it's a really interesting gun. That four-end release catch is brilliant.
Oh,
it's brilliant. It's such a small movement. It's such a small bite.
That
but
rocks
it's
that
so perfectly
like
made.
a trigger sear.
It's beautiful. It's beautifully done. And just clips
Oh
on.
my goodness.
It's quality. It really is quality.
Wow.
And then when you take the barrels off,
This is where I got super
this is where you
excited.
got excited.
Should we just observe the monoblock barrels, which are pretty cool for
they are,
1950s?
yeah. Again, with a little short back rib and then
Yeah.
sunken.
Clearly a thing back then.
Yeah.
You ever shot a gun like that? I think I maybe shot one.
I don't think I have, actually.
Feel the film coming on.
Yeah, we could do that.
Rib styles.
Rib styles.
Rib style. I'm down for rib
Wide
styles.
file
Rib
cut,
styles. That'd
sunken.
be my rap name.
Ribless.
Probably more your. Yes.
Rib style. Anyway, moving on from ribs, we have got
A hidden conical locking lug
Yeah.
in 1958, which, as you'll know, if any of you have a 680 series or have ever seen one, is what locks up a 680 series.
this is almost the missing link.
This is cool. This is clearly they have
The idea is
underbite.
there. Yeah.
This is the third bite.
Yep.
Bosh.
And then they put the two together.
Yeah.
Two bites on either side of your 6.8 series. And the way it just moves in as you... That's lovely. That's a cool thing. But historically, for Beretta as a
very
company, that
exciting gun
is
making.
good stuff.
Very exciting gun making. And look, actually got monoblock Berettas because the monoblock band name was their thing.
Yeah.
No one else was doing
No,
it.
so they would brand their floor plate with it, getting excited themselves about what they could do.
This is awesome.
It's a good gun.
This is a very different point in Beretta's history. Pietro Beretta Gardoni, Val Trompia, caliber 12. Alloy. I could fall in love with this gun. You know what about it is? And I hate that we're putting this video just in case I don't win it, and so that we can look back on it. 70 to 90 pounds.
You got to have it for that.
Somebody's got to have it.
That is so good. I just felt my smile broaden as I realised just how short that throw is. It just moves on.
That's like a trigger.
It's precise. It's perfect.
Alloy chromium electric steel special type. Ausonia? Does it say Ausonia? Ausonia.
Might need glasses in this one.
Yeah, Ausonia. Oh, I've got
Yeah.
It says Ausonia.
Okay, fine. I'll take your glasses over my plain bad eyes. Gas checks on the face.
Come on, this is
This
a nice
is a good
gun.
thing. Shaped flats. Just that action just widens and is filed both sides.
It's nice.
It's a good thing.
It's tight.
Again, articulated front trigger, and this. That is so good.
More
so
importantly.
good.
I mean, it's midget spec, but sorry. What's the correct way of saying that? This is for
Short stocked.
Yes. But it's got no pad on there. You could easily bring that into a...
To be honest, Johnny, everyone's a midget standing next to you.
This is where you say, I'm 6'2".
I'm actually 6'1".
It's totally shootable.
It is.
Totally shootable. With
Yeah,
that on
it's
there.
a good thing.
And a pad,
Needs a pad put on, but you know, other than that, you've just got a really interesting piece of history here with echoes of modern gun making. You can see where their brain as a company, as a brand was going. And I find that really, really fascinating. But that, I love, that forend.
I think we should just call this video, if you'd like to buy it for my birthday, I'd appreciate it. What a gun.
It is, it's a cracker.
What I find kind of interesting about this, right? This is a gun we just pulled off the rack, had a look at, found all sorts of exciting things about because it's a Beretta. That room, if you actually want to do some research rather than use our extensive knowledge of Beretta being a mainstream brand, it's full of stuff that you can get kind of geeky about by having little obscure things.
Absolutely. There are echoes of what we do in modern gun making throughout the seal bid auction. There are weird patents that didn't make the cut, things that you'll never see again because they made several prototypes and then thought, no, the things have been that idea has been superseded, so let's move on. So, and these things are just dotted around the seal bid sales, so it's worth hunting them out.
It's the perfect place for an amateur gun collector. Well, amateur gun collectors.
Yeah, it's just finding what you like, and you don't have to spend very much money to get in the game.
Yeah. Providing that you can get excited by £300 guns and not necessarily you have to forget the main sale when you come in here.
Yeah, you do. It's a different game completely. So, but just getting interested in little touches that we find on these guns is what it's all about.
Hello. Speaking of which, the trigger gun on there.
Yeah, little dog engraved on the trigger gun.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
Little hound,
Really not bad.
Spanish hunting hound, probably some sort of pointer, stylised. But those fences are what sets that gun apart. And the engraving on the safety for me.
This whole top area, the way this flows, the engraving down to the safety, even this engraving down here.
Yeah.
Like, this is a...
None of it's accidental. All of it is by thought and design and beautifully executed. On a Spanish gun.
By a maker most people have never even heard of.
Exactly that.
Faded into history in the 80s. Bless them. All right, thanks mate. Should we have a pizza?
Yeah, let's do it.
Pizza over, I have what, 6156 and 6157. A pair, or not pair, two different Zoli made Dixon and McNaughton over and unders. And they are relatively interesting things. Both are as new in the mechanical department and just have marks from storage and wear. This one, lot 6156, a little bit more than lot 6157. Both are Devon models. So if we look over this particular Devon model sporter, you have Antonio Zoli in gold, Devon in gold with some scroll work. On the right hand side you have a shooter and a loader in a valley with some trees. On the bottom you have Dixon and McNaughton, established 1820 in Edinburgh, made in Italy, and it's all engraved by Bottega Giovanelli. It gets slightly more American, not that it kind of wasn't already, on this side. And we're not really here to talk about the engraving, more to do a comparison of stock design, because it's kind of, again, interesting opportunities to look at cool guns. Is you have a tower shoot depicted. For those of you who don't know what a tower shoot is, on the continent and in America, instead of releasing birds pre-season in the summer and wilding them up and then driving them out of covers, so on and so forth, as we do in England, they release them out of a tower on the day, and then you circle the tower, or you have one line of guns, and they're shot that way, which is different, and we're not here to judge. It's an interesting thing. I've witnessed a few at this point in my career, and I think what we do is pretty weird if you're not from around here. But it's interesting to see it engraved on a gun that's called Devon. It must be like Devon, Massachusetts or something. This gun is a sporting gun with this stock, and this gun is a field gun with this stock. And we're going to just take a moment to look over the stock differences between a sporter gun and a field gun, because rarely do you have two guns so identical. Barrels, actions, and forends are pretty much identical on these guns. When I say pretty much, they're identical. So first things you'll notice is the different grip shape. With a high-bow gun or sporting gun, that full pistol grip is really nice. It locks your hand into a more definite position and gives you more consistency. There'll be arguments for those who shoot a lot of game to say that consistency isn't always there, certainly in short, sharp, snap shooting environments. And so when you look at this stock by comparison with those actions leveled off, you'll notice your hand is much freer in this angle. That also allows your arm to come up a little bit to the right and just maybe change the way that you hold the gun or shoulder the gun. There's massive disadvantages and advantages to both. Mostly, though, I've seen people shoot both with great ability. But what you'll find is this is a much more consistent thing because it locks you into position. This would be preferable for quick shooting, hence game gun. This is more preferable for shooting where you see the birds for a little bit more time. Clays or high birds. Next, you'll see this actual mass difference, and it really does make a difference when you put one on top of the other. The combs are similar height. This one sits a 1/4 inch higher, but the drops are the same, if you like, so it just sits a 1/4 inch lower for the sake of what this is. This gives you a flatter shooting gun, meaning this gun will shoot where you're looking. This gun, you'll see a bit more rib, you'll float the target a little more. Apart from the top, if you look underneath, you'll see how much more mass of wood there is, coming down to a very similar point in terms of actual buttstock size. This becomes a much sharper angle than this, which leaves you a big slab of wood, increasing overall weight. And finally, we can actually see the comb difference. A lot of game and guns and sporting guns have a little bit different. These guns are perfectly different. They could represent properly what a game gun and a sporting gun really look like en masse. See how thin the blade of this stock is versus the blade of this stock? This is designed so you can lock your head into it a little better. It should deliver the recoil a bit smoother because of the larger surface area connected with your cheek. This is a little thinner, again, for weight, speed, and the fact that you are usually mounted less harshly on the stock with game shooting. You float your head a little, which is also why you can get away with a slightly lower comb, because you're not planting into the gun and making a move as such. Although you are, but a lot of the time it's more reactionary. You don't have the time to push your head into the stock or form more of a formal connection. Again, this is all mass generalizations, and if you see a lot of the top game shots, they will be shooting a more sporting stock when it comes to the high bird stuff. Well, I said you have people like Simon who still shoot a more classic gun stock to great effect. The reality is it's kind of a horses for courses thing. I've shot plenty of birds with clay guns and plenty of clays with bird guns. They are designed for a purpose, and you can definitely feel the difference. However, providing you understand the difference, I guess it doesn't matter quite so much. Or maybe I'm wrong. I think it's definitely right to use the right gun for the right application, but again, there's so many people who use something that's different and outside of the box that it's hard to say there's any black and whites when it comes to this thing. Lastly, just check the balance. You'll notice that extra wood puts our balance actually at the rear of this gun, which is interesting. Again, just interesting. Given that most guns now are front heavy, it's always interesting when you pick one up that's rearward heavy. I think what we're about to see though is quite the opposite with this. Which is why I think people think about stock design in terms of looks and feel, but actually one has to remember the quantity of wood at the back as well as the density of wood at the back will have huge bearing on how a gun handles. And I don't entirely know why we had this entire conversation just now about this, but it's a rare opportunity to see two identical barreled actions with different stock sets. From a practical point of view, both of these guns are being sold separately. They're not a pair, have detachable triggers. They're both good quality Zoli guns, nothing not to like. They're definitely interesting, and I doubt you'll see another set like this or another gun like this in the UK with that Dixon McNaughton. Mechanically solid, kind of interesting, not silly money. I think for me, I love the way this looks, and I love the way it feels, and I've shot, not this engraving spec, but I've shot pretty much this gun with this spec. I think for an all-rounder, you're not going to go far wrong with a stock like that, but I am a big guy with big hands. I can't say that this is bad for big hands either. Horses for courses. I hate the phrase, but I've used it about 5 times, so I clearly don't hate it that much. In my head, I really like this full pistol grip gun. It's definitely perhaps the more versatile option because of the way I like a gun. That said, I've shot a gun in this exact spec with this Zoli pistol grip that's swept back, and I can't say I hate it. I definitely prefer the way this one balances.
If the rear end is heavy, is that better for game shooting compared to sports?
Well, because it speeds it up.
Yeah.
Traditional game gun theory is that you want a gun that balances between the hands, meaning the majority of weight is between your hands, and ergo the weight sits somewhere around here, so that you can start it up quickly, but you still have enough weight between your hands that it's not super fast. Generally speaking, most game guns now, because they put thinner stocks on, are front heavier, because they're looking to provide a sleeker gun, sleeker grip, and reduce the weight, but inherently it's hard to reduce weight in barrels while still keeping it multi-choke. You'll end up with guns that are front heavy. I maintain the traditional theory that a neutral balance gun is best for game shooting. For high birds, something a bit front heavy, a bit slower is good. And you'll notice grouse guns tend to be a little bit faster, a little bit further back behind the hinge. You do need control when you're game shooting, right? I appreciate what you're saying in terms of a speedy gun being good for snap shooting because you can make more reactionary targets or reactionary shots into targets or birds as the case may be. But I'd say too much rearward weight would actually be negative, I guess. The same as too much forward weight would be negative. But we're all different, and I've got friends with guns that are so aggressively back and forward heavy and they like it that way. It depends on how much you use your left hand, how much you use your body. It's a bit personal, but technically, yes, less front weight is good for game. Sometimes. It's the middle of the day and it's got really busy over in the sealed bid. So I've taken this lot 6726 over to the main sale room where it's a little quieter because the auction is actually live over there right now. This is probably one of my guns of the sale. This is a Stephen Grant side lever trigger plate action, which is kind of exciting, meaning you've got that lovely round bar at the front, somewhat like a Dixon, and the wide trigger there. Trigger brakes are all nice, it is mechanically sound, but that side lever just allows you such a nice profile. What's exciting about this is that it's £500 to £700 for a Stephen Grant side lever with beautiful Damascus barrels. It has been rebrowned and the stock has a fairly large crack through the hand. But these are things that I'm quite happy to have a concession on. Given there's guns in there with broken barrels, these barrels are actually okay. Well, relatively okay. They were reproved, nitro reproved in 2009, but that right-hand barrel, as much as it was nitro reproved, was nitro reproved at 17 thou wall thickness. So shotgun wall thicknesses obviously vary. A new shotgun nowadays will be about 30 thou thick. That's the actual thickness of this steel. They've had guns here proved and actually sent to the proof house and part at 12 thou, which is very, very thin. If you think that's what, 2 Coke cans, that's extremely thin. 17 thou is not really high performance steel worthy, but you start putting appropriate loads through it, you're never going to have a problem. And as the guy who was very influential in my gun knowledge said, it usually comes out the easy end, that's physics. Unless there's a blockage or a pit or some place to build up pressure, you will be absolutely fine, given that you'd use appropriate loads. It's a non-ejector. It's pretty unexotic in that department. 18.6, 70 mil, which is quite exciting for the American viewers. I love these Grant side levers. And in a trigger plate, it's kind of more technologically fascinating. Somebody's been chewing on this fore, and there's a few gaps missing and a few cracks, but there's nothing here that wouldn't either fix up or be somewhat manageable, depending on how unoriginal you wanted to make it. Hey, we'll add this to my birthday gun list. What a nice thing, 500 to 700. The reality is, though, it's a sealed bid. For those who don't know how the sealed bid works, it's quite simple. You put a bid in, and you tell them what you're willing to pay, and if you're the highest, it's all closed, you win the gun. Ergo, serious bids win. If you put a £500 bid on this, something more desirable, you're not going to win. The reality is with something like this, you're going to need to be into probably the £800, £900, £1,000 mark to win it. Which is kind of annoying because if you do win, you know you were the highest, but you don't know by how much. But again, I've put plenty of bids on stuff in that room that I desperately wanted, and they didn't win. And I wish that I'd put more on and I'd have been happy about it. You can't be regretting. It's a nice thing. Something like this would take pride of place in your cabinet for special occasional use. Or as your daily driver, if you just want to live it up. Love the raised rib, provides a really nice sighting plane. Love that slimline Grant safety catch. Just a good bit of gun making and a cracking piece of history for very affordable money. Here we have a good example of two things that you don't often get side by side to have a study of. This is a Winchester 6500, one of the best sporting guns ever made, and this is a Winchester Select Energy, something perhaps Winchester is less proud of. Winchester shotguns are certainly interesting things, and their history since the beginning of pumps and lever action shotguns is pretty well documented. But over the years they've been made all over the place and owned by various different people who had different intentions for the brand. And I'm going to try and find a bit of a table and a bit of space to try and compare and contrast two of their sporting shotguns. 4.5 choke, 2 3/4 chambers. This is a Winchester 6500 from 1986. It weighs 8 pounds 6 ounces with a 30-inch barrel. This is a Winchester Select Energy from 2015. It has 28-inch barrels and weighs in at 8 pounds 4. Not a great deal of difference in weight. When you sort of pick them up and lift them, you're looking at similar weights. So it's 2 ounces different, and 2 inches a barrel. 2 inches a barrel generally works out at 2 to 4 ounces depending on barrel thickness and the taper to the choke. This particular one is multi-choked, and this one is choked at 1/4 and 1/2, I believe. Could be wrong on that, but, well, look on the website for lot 6224 and correct me if I'm wrong. This Winchester, balance-wise, just have a quick selection. It's very rearward heavy. Oof. Presumably because of the adjustable comb hardware. One would say that's a fair reason. That said, I don't remember these being 8 pound 4, so maybe it's got some balancing weights in that. That would be the correct given how backwards heavy that is. Preferable balance for most people is in the middle. Some people prefer it forward, some people prefer it back. The key is to, regardless of balance, go and just shoot your gun and get used to the speed that it handles and how how quick it reacts. The 6500, also slightly rearward heavy, that's interesting, but it does have an inch kickies on. I'm sure if there we are. Yeah, it's, what's that? It's quite temperamentally, yeah. It's interesting when you balance guns, sometimes you can be within 1/4 of an inch and it's just happy. Other times like this one, you can seemingly get it fairly perfect and it's not. Even with a gun balance, it's even harder. You have to be careful with kickies pads. They can often throw the weight off. That sort of thing's really nice, but you're adding a very large weight at the back of your stock. And I don't generally like them on guns just because of the way they can mess with distribution. Although, that said, it does handle very nicely. Really not that bad, given the balance is the way it is over the hinge, but out of preference, I'd probably lose it and put something a bit lighter on there, lose a bit of overall weight, and put the weight somewhere back into the middle of the gun. Not a bad thing. What's real interesting is if you come over, the actual quality of these guns is very different. Not only are these Brownings made 30 odd years apart, they're also made in different countries. This was made in Japan, and this was made in, well, it's made by FN in Belgium and assembled by Browning Viana in Portugal. So you take your pick as to where it's actually from. A bit of both. Both are printed on there. I think the FN Belgium part is where all these bits are made, but it's fitted up. All these parts are actually clipped together and assembled by Browning Viana. And assembled with an over and under means a lot, because a lot of the handwork in actually making sure this thing is regulated is what makes a gun feel like a gun. If we start at the back, the pads are inconsequential. Both have been fitted, well, this is aftermarket kickies. This is actually a Winchester pad in thick rubber. This gun is polyurethane finished, and this gun has, it's more like a true oil finish they put on these guns back then. This gun is hand checkered, and this gun has what we can only refer to as a design flaw of a checkering piece. It doesn't feel great in the hand, like you actually feel those bumps on your hand, which I've always thought was weird. It definitely is a look, and I'm proud of them for trying something different, but I think the roundness of these checkering patches do not chime well with the squareness of the machining. I don't know, Owen, what do you think?
Ugly.
It's ugly. I think we can all be fair. It's not many people are going to look at that and go, yum. I guess it's a little like laser engraving, right? It's exciting when they use the laser to do new things instead of just copying old hand designs. I guess this was the theory here. We've got a laser checkering device. We no longer need to do these classic looking panels. We can make circles. And 10 years prior to this, the 682 did the circle bobble checkering or grip texture. But that was actually nice. Maybe not to look at, but to hold. This is, foreend's quite nice. Like, that feels good in the hand, but this feels very strange. Certainly because you have a palm swell, those ridges are very prominent across the top of their arches. It's a no from me. The forend wood, this is definitely cheaper machining. Like, the lines aren't quite so pleasing. This has a bit more flow to it, a bit more hand finishing. I mean, he says
to the eye. Maybe that's incorrect. I've never been to Browning Vienna. I've never went to the Winchester factory. But just to look at, you can see the way the wood flows from the metal into there. You can just see that someone actually paid a bit of time to make sure this fitted nice. I should be careful what I say here because inherently somebody's going to get upset. Somebody owns this gun and thinks it's great. And it's not a bad gun, but I do find it difficult when people opt for a newer, cheap gun rather than looking at something like this. This is in the Holts auction for $150 to $250. This is in the Holts auction for $250 to $350. Both are indicators of market price when they sell for the top plus commission. Obviously, in a shop, you can expect to pay a little more, given that you're going to get a bit of warranty. But that is the price differential. Look at the metal-to-metal fit on this 6500. This was a premium gun. This gun won world championship. This gun was used by the best shooters in the world. This, look at the metal-to-metal fit. And a metal-to-metal fit obviously has nothing to do with the bearing and shootability and who shoots it, but just the attention to detail is lacking. I really like the golden planets on the energy. I think that's a fair thing to like. Again, wood-to-metal fit is pretty appalling. On this one, it's at least like chamfered in, it flows nicely. The barrels, I mean, you can't get too fussy about barrels, both barrels. The 6500, I know people said they had legendarily good barrels, but, you know, this was back in the 80s, things have moved on. The quality of finish, again, these are struck up very nicely by hand. These are not. Different eras, different price points, clear to say. For me, though, it comes into play when you actually just use and hold them. Where it really comes into play, though, is in the opening and closing. And if you take the 6500 and you just push the top lever across and just close it up, it's a real satisfying Bible closing sound. It's just thump. It's like closing Lord of the Rings extended edition book. There is no extended edition of the book. It's just the book. There's extended edition of the films, though. It's like closing a tome. Oh, thump. This is... I mean, it's not fair. I wasn't even slamming that. We slam this. The noise is more solid. It's better put together. And that's as much as you can say for it. But that doesn't mean that Select is a bad gun. It's just a gun from a different era to a different price point. It's just, I find sometimes the price of guns and the desirability of guns quite confusing as somebody who looks at maybe different things to what the market looks at. This is definitely shinier and newer, but this looks, to me, $1 million. Last point, I mean, I don't need to carry on. It's just an interesting thing to see how gun making changes over the years, depending on who is in charge of where a gun is made, who it's marketed to, and the price it needs to achieve. This was marketed to younger, newer shooters, people who were perhaps less traditional. And this was used by, well, generally older boys, some of the greatest shots in the world, but generally not the greatest shots who had lots of money. Which is kind of interesting. And maybe that's wrong. I wasn't alive in 1986, so I'd love your thoughts. It's interesting to see which companies have been a bit more consistent with how they pitch their guns. And Winchester always just does seem like the sideline to the Browning, Maruku, Winchester family. Interesting.
This is the saddest gun in the sale. I spoke about that stock and action before. Well, the gun that has to have the barrel destroyed before you take it away. This is one too. This is lot 8525. It's in for £200 to £400. This is a Boss live pigeon gun. These things are so scarce and so special. And to see one that it is in unshootable condition that will have to basically be destroyed before you take it away is very sad. And I say destroyed, I suppose they're giving you inspiration to give this a new lease of life. And this needs a new lease of life. I spotted this in the rack, and there was just something about the way that action was filed that I guessed it was London. And I picked it up, and very quickly looking at the top rib, swinging around to the side, I noticed it was a Boss. Just the quality of workmanship is unbelievable. Like most Bosses, this gun is not flash. It was made in 1887 as a live pigeon gun. You have quality workmanship from the way the stock is made. It's not wildly exciting wood, but the lines, the checkering, the way that it is finished is perfect. The engraving is simple but perfect. And actually on the top of the action bar here, you've got these little stars on the inside of the scrolls that is, oh, they're just super special. That top rib is hand filed, tapered on the 31-inch black powder proof barrels only. Not the barrels matter because they're going to get cut. The Damascus is beautiful. Again, not wild or eccentric or like overly show-offy. There's nowhere to hide when you make a gun this simple, and it has been made to perfect standards. I love the way that rotary lever there has the little chamfer on it down into the bottom. It's just quality gun making, and I'd love to see this gun taken and given a new lease of life. Because with a new sleeved set of barrels and a sympathetic restoration, given that it's not going to be original after that, you could be in for, I mean, you're going to have to spend a fair amount of money, but you could have a very special gun, because the ribs can stay Boss ribs, and the barrels will be new, but the ribs will be Boss ribs. The back part of the barrel here will be Boss. It will be special. Short of having a brand new set of barrels made, you could have a lovely thing. And it would be fairly practical from a modern perspective as well. I'm just sad. I'd love this to be in shootable condition, just shootable condition. But it's not. It's just super rare. See, I've never really spent much time showing you these guns because they always make me sad, because this is either the end of their life when they're going to become a chair leg or a lamp or some kind of craft item, or someone is going to step in and save the day. Worst comes to worst, it gets deactivated and put in a framey case, but even that I find kind of sad. This gun needs to be out there making people smile and making birds die. I love it. Guys, thank you very much for sharing yet another Holts experience with me. I hope you've enjoyed some of the guns we've shared with you today. Don't forget to go and check out the Holts website for this auction or the latest auction. And as always, let me know in the comments which was your favourite and which ones we missed. I love this. This auction of the sealed bid and the last auction, maybe I'm in a better mental headspace than previous auctions, but I've been more excited by some of the stuff here than I have for years. It's just such an honour to come and play with this kind of history, right? Guys, you take care. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching, guys. This channel is made possible by our amazing sponsors. You can find out more about them in the description down below. And if you want to support the channel, you can join as a member. You get loads of extra content, well, some extra content, and occasionally we hook up and go clay shooting together as a membership group. If you don't feel like joining today, we really appreciate you watching and subscribing. Have a wonderful day.